Welcome back to the channel. I am Sean, and this is Sean's Rustic Designs. In this video, I'm going to answer one of the most asked questions from all of my flag carving videos. What kind of carving disc are you using? So today we are going to take a look at what discs I use, and we will also talk a little bit about each one and how they perform, why I like each one, and if the cost is worth it for you. First up to bat is the Turboplane from Arbortech. As you can see, the Turboplane has 3 rather large cutting blades compared to the rest of the discs in the group. These blades do not extend over the outer surface, and that allows the disc to be used with a pattern or a guide. But this also means you are limited to how much of a dish or a concave shape you can carve before hitting that smooth, flat surface. Now let's talk about performance. This disc cuts really fast and can be very aggressive, removing a lot of material very quickly. It also is very controllable and will provide smooth, light cuts if and when you need. As you can see by the shavings, those 3 large blades will provide a nice smooth surface and some very large shavings. One downside to a disc like this is if you damage one or all the blades, they are not replaceable. And depending on how bad the damage was, you would have to file to fix it, or if it was really bad, replace the whole disc. And at the highest price point at $150, it may not be worth it to you. Next up is another disc from Arbortech, the Industrial Wood Carver. The Wood Carver disc has 3 carbide cutting blades that are replaceable, so you can remove and sharpen them, or just loosen and rotate them if they get dull or damaged. But at $50 for a set, you would want to try to sharpen as much as you could. The carbide blades on this disc offer a few advantages over the Turboplane. The shape of the disc allows the blades to cut all around the radius of the disc, and this gives you the ability to cut on edge and to perform undercuts. Just like the Turboplane, this disc has the ability to make very aggressive cuts as well as very fine cuts. The smaller cutting surfaces allows you to make fast cuts, but with a less even finished surface, and produces smaller, shorter shavings. I feel what may be an advantage for this disc may also be seen as a disadvantage to some. If you're not careful or get overly aggressive, you could find yourself past or beyond the depth or the area you intend to go. Also, it takes a little bit of practice to get the feel for the rocking motion to go back and forth with a cut action for this disc. And then there's the price. The Industrial Wood Carver comes in at another $150. To some, it may be acceptable. But if you're a casual user, it's probably a little too much. Next up is the Extreme Shaping Disc by Kutzall. This carving disc was my workhorse for a long time and continues to perform that task. The Kutzall Shaping Disc features a bunch of coated, sharp tungsten teeth that removes material in a quick and efficient way. The disc allows for cuts to a larger area than the Arbortech discs do, but it does not remove the material quite as quick. What it does do is leave a closer to finished surface that is a few sanding steps away from complete. The teeth on these discs are crazy durable, and whatever coating they have on here simply does not wear off. The teeth on the coarse disc do not get clogged up, but can retain some minor material, and I will talk about cleaning the Kutzall discs in a little bit. One of the differences you will see between the Kutzall and the Arbortechs is seen in the shavings, or the sawdust. I say sawdust for the Kutzall because we have moved away from cutting to basically sanding with about 10 grit. The only negative I can think of for this disc is it does not cut quite as fast as the Arbortechs, and this is because you're limited by the depth of the teeth. but you will be closer to a finished product in the end. And then there is the price. At $60, this may be a more realistic option for the casual user. Lastly, we have the original Dished by Kutzall in fine grit. This for me is the last step prior to sanding with 80 and then 120 sandpaper. Just like the Extreme Shaping Disc, this has the special coated tungsten teeth, just a lot more of them, so it's not as aggressive. Another difference between the Extreme and the Dish is the depth of the curve. This allows you to get down into the deeper area and further refine your piece before starting sanding. And as you can see in the shavings, we are fully into producing a fine sawdust. And once again, the Kutzall comes in at $60. When I carve a flag, I try to use each disc and think of each one as a stage. Stage 1, the turbo plane, roughing in the shape. Stage 2, industrial wood carver, starting to refine the shape. Stage 3, Kutzall Extreme, starting to smooth out the uneven surfaces and further refine the shape. Stage 4, the Kutzall Dish, smoothing prior to sanding. And finally, stage 5 is sanding. But if you were to ask me what disc I would use if I could only choose one, I would say the industrial wood carver. But now if you asked what disc to buy as a casual user or a beginner, I would say start with the Kutzall Dished in very coarse. If you remember earlier, I said I would talk about cleaning the Kutzall discs if they get clogged, like the fine one is here. Kutzall suggests using a torch to burn the residue off, then using a wire brush or wheel, scraping away the buildup and repeating as necessary. This is also my preferred method. Or you can soak the disc in a solvent, probably overnight, then scrape away the residue with a wire brush. But let's face it, fire's a lot quicker and a lot more fun. All these discs I just showed you are great, but I did not start with the Arbortechs or the Kutzalls. I started with a chainsaw carving disc and a flap disc. I did some really good carvings with those two tools, but they have issues. The chainsaw disc is kind of like trying to ride a wild beast compared to the Arbortech and Kutzall. The chainsaw disc has a tendency to vibrate or chatter when cutting, and it wants to and tries to pull itself into the wood, especially if you're not being careful. It also dulls fast and requires a lot of sharpening, and everyone loves sharpening chainsaws. The flap disc is a great tool, but not for wood carving. It will burn the wood if it catches an edge and can gouge if not careful. Plus, it's not very flexible at all. Now, I love the disc that Benchmark braces make, and I only use their flap disc for cleaning up metal and welds. And I only used these two discs at first because it was what I had readily available to me. So go out, try different discs, try to carve something, and come to a conclusion for yourself. You may agree or disagree with me, and that's okay. But if you find anything in this video helpful or valuable, please consider hitting the like button, subscribing, and putting the bell on. And as always, thanks for watching.